fellow makers. This is the second part of my Live Your Story project that I made for the Tim Holtz Idea-ology 2022 release. In today's part, I want to talk about how I made this book base out of Vignette Boxes using much of the 2022 release. And so, as with the last video that I did, I will be showing you some parts that I filmed as I was making this piece and before I knew how it would turn out. So that's where we're going to go next. We're going to get started with how I made the book base. Hey friends, so this is a little bit different way for me to make a tutorial. So you are probably seeing this in the middle of one of my tutorials that I start with the finished product. So I decided to do a little bit of videotaping as I am making this piece. So I actually don't know what it ended up looking like yet because I haven't made it. There's this divided box that is new to the line this year, and it's quite thick compared to the other vignette boxes. So here's the large vignette box. You can see it's actually much wider. Not quite as long, but it is much deeper than the vignette boxes. And then I took a set of vignette boxes, and I didn't use the smallest one, and I didn't use the largest one this time. I used the two middle sizes. And what I kind of started thinking about when I was looking at this was I thought, well, if I put it up this way, that it kind of could be like a bookcase or something that would hold things like shelves. So then I thought, well, if I'm doing this, what other things do we have? And we had these words kind of strips, these metal word strips. And then this one said, Live Your Story. And I thought, okay, so that kind of goes with books, story. And then I thought, okay, well, so what would, kind of living your story look like? And so I decided if this is going to be a bookshelf, that I needed something that I wanted it to sit on. And that's where these came in. And I decided to make books out of them. And so you can see that they are not books yet. But I'm using the same technique that I used at Christmas with my Christmas Carol vignette. And that is you just take any vignette box and you want to cut up some chipboard. And this can be just, it's not too thick. You can see it's not too thick. It just needs to give a little bit of dimension. And I cut, for the bigger one, I cut it into 1/4-inch strips. And then I glue one along the binding edge on top. Because you know how when you open books that they kind of have, well, I'll show you on here, how they have this kind of thing going on. And so that's what that is supposed to represent. So I put that there, and then I put top and bottom of 3 sides. And then over here, you can see that I did a wide piece and then a little bit thinner piece along here. And what I will be doing is I'm going to put some of the craft stock over this, and that will kind of bend out and bow out a little bit like a book cover bows out just a little bit. All right, so that's kind of where I'm going with that, was I had to build it up just a little bit so it wasn't just a flat book binding. Then on the smaller one, I took and I cut 1/8-inch strips. And so I did those on 3 sides and along that binding edge. And then I did, again, I was running out and I didn't want to cut some more off of this, so I just used a couple of extra strips. So I also built this one up so that when I put that craft stock over it, it will smooth that out and make it look like a book binding. So then I'm going to stack them like this, like this. And it will be 2 books on top of each other. And then along the side, I don't know if you can see, but this is fairly easy to do. You want to be careful, but I just kept my scissors closed like this, and I just went along there like that, and I just made little marks all along all 3 sides so that when I paint these cream, they will look like the worn edges of books. Kind of a little bit like this. Okay, so that's what I'm going for with these. So this will be the base, and then this is going to go on top, and then I will have my story on this side, and then I'm even going to have a little bit of a story on the back side so that you can see it all the way around. And then there's actually room, if I would like, I can drill with my Dremel. I can drill a hole through here, and before I attach this one, I can drill a hole through here and then into this, and I can light this up if I want to have some sort of light in it, candles or whatever it is that I might want to have in there that lights up with the tiny. All right, so I have the books at this point where they look like books, and I went ahead and just pulled the paper on the back side. So this is the front with the wood. This will be the top, and it has the way you can tell the difference is I made the backs flat where the box is, and the front has that binding piece. So they will stack like this. And so now I just need to make them, you know, I could just paint this if I wanted. I could have actually used some of the cracked leather if I wanted, but I actually want to use some of the backdrops papers. So this is cut a little bit bigger than the piece because I need to wrap it around this lip. And so that's what I will be doing on the ends. And then this will go around the binding area. And it's going to be along the back here. If this back was showing, I would go ahead and cover the whole thing, but I am not covering the whole back area. And then I will trim this, and these are going to just kind of wrap around onto that lip area like that. All right, so that it looks like it's a whole, you know, it'll be the whole cover. So that's for this one. For the bigger one, I am using some of this paper that is going to go here and then on both sides. And then since the back of this will show, I'm actually going to cut another piece of this and put it on the back since it's going to go on the bottom. I decided against, this is what this ended up looking like when I used all those photos on the bookshelf, and so I decided against trying to light it, mainly because these don't move, and I was having trouble figuring out how I was going to drill all the way through to get some lights in each one. So I had a couple of different ideas about what I was going to do about this and lighting it up, but I eventually decided against it. So this is just going to be sitting on these books, and because of that, I went ahead and covered the back. I cut off another piece of this paper, and it is going to go like this around the edges on the binding, and so it will cover up the piece on the back as well. So it will just kind of be a binding piece, right, and have that little decor on there. So that's where we're going next, is covering the books with paper. ended up turning out, which you've already seen. And I really ended up being very happy with the outcome. So let's just talk through a few things. You saw me make the books and how I did those and how they ended up. I did add a little bit of the gold metallic distress crayon after I put walnut stain crayon, which covers up a multitude of little errors and mistakes. All right. So if you have any mistakes when you are putting this together, that walnut stain crayon will cover it up, and then just, highlight a few little things with the gold distress crayon. So those are my little mini books that I made out of the Vignette boxes. And like I said before, had I wanted to light this up and had I figured out, maybe if I just only wanted to light up the bottom or something like that, I really wouldn't have put the craft stock on the bottom of these to make them look like a solid book. I would have left this open like I did with the one at Christmas so that I could have the battery pack in there. All right, then I just used a little bit of white distress paint on the word plaque, and then a little bit of mushroom on there. To make my book, what are those? Bookends. To make my bookends, I used chipboard. I think I talked about this. And then these are the old adornments that I had in my stash that I just felt like I needed to make bookmarks out of them. So I'll be interested to see if you didn't have these adornments in your stash, what you use if you decide to make some book ends. I colored them with the alcohol ink pearls. And so you might see a shimmer on those, and that's because I used the pearls to color those, as well as to color the chipboard. So that's why it's a little bit shimmery. For this heart, I also used the pearls, and I used the pearls on the prize ribbon adornment in the back. That's blue pearls that I used on that one, and a little bit of pearls on the frames as well. It's very hard to see on this one unless you see it in person, but I used one of the gold colored pearls for the frame, and then I used the same pink tone for the little bits in the corners and then in the middle on the sides to coordinate with that heart. These are those books that I showed you. I made, these snippets are from the original Snippets pack. So even this little photo where they are like at a fair or something like that. But I wanted it small to kind of fit with the size of everything. I made a little frame out of chipboard for this snippet that is, actually, it's not a snippet. It's in the Memoir ephemera pack. So it's a piece of ephemera, and I just thought it was pretty. And so I made a little frame for it. And then these are some of the bouquet flowers that are just colored and put in there. The little flag, which I kind of took as like being from maybe a trip that they may have taken or something like that. So I added that in there. There's a little, one of the vials with one of the curator snippets for the label. And I also colored that with the same, I think it's Envy pearl, alcohol pearl. So I colored that the same. I just was, for whatever reason, I was really into the pearls and coloring everything with the pearls. And then last but not least, I made a clock. And that is a snippet from the original same pack of ephemera, or Snippets ephemera, the first pack that was released. And I put it on a bunch of chipboard rounds. I just cut chipboard in the same shape as that little clock front. And then, so I'm going to put in some pictures right now as I'm describing it. So I built it up. I adhered it to the front of that stack of round chipboard shapes. And then I just took a 1/4-inch piece of chipboard and I colored it gold and I wrapped it around, and then I folded it under to kind of make a little foot for the, so it kind of almost mimics the curio clock foot. And I held it, let it dry, and then I cut off one of the long clock hands or hands for gauges and things like that. So I cut off the tip and then I put the tiniest of fasteners in there just to make the clock hand. And I only have one clock hand. I don't have two. So I know that's kind of weird, but I couldn't find two that were that small. So I just put one and figured nobody would care. A couple more snippets. These, I believe, are also from that same snippet packet where I got all these, that original one. And then I put in one of those little flares. I thought that kind of would be like someone ran for office or something like that. And so I covered the raw edge with the new decorative trims tape, the trim tape. I love this so much. It comes in so many styles. So there's the numbers, and then this blue scallop, and then the green, the polka dot, the must be made on receipt, claims for errors must be made on receipt of goods. You've got the alphabet, you've got all these numbers, book number 801 collect, these black and white scallops, the measuring tape, and then the one that I used is this one with all of the diamonds, and this one with the stars and stripes. So many great options for you. I decided to go with this one because I felt that it had kind of a deco feel, an art deco feel, and I kind of felt like this all had that same feeling to it. And then, as you saw, I covered the whole thing with the snapshots, and I used a lot of distress crayon to color the edge. And then I just thought it was really fun to add just a little bit of interest with some of those remnant rubs from the recent release. And so I put remnant rubs on each side in different spots just to add a little bit of interest. And so then once I did that, I didn't want to cover these guys up, and so I didn't use that book that I had talked about in the beginning. You know, you sometimes just decide, no, I'm not going to use that, and the passport and all of that. It, you know, you just go a different direction. So I went this direction, and I actually really love this instead of going the other way. I really feel like this tells the story of living your story much more than the book does. So anyway, that is it. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Contact me through my blog, and I will be glad to answer any of the questions that I can if I haven't been clear through the videos before this and then through my little recap right now. Thank you so much for stopping by. I always am so appreciative of your support in any way, whether it be watching the videos, commenting on my blog or my Instagram posts, or anything else that I do. Thank you so very much. All right, my friends, go have a crafty day.